In addition to that, we have what is called a spiritual body or a spiritual form. And there must be laws, just like there are laws that operate upon our physical body. There must also be laws, it would make sense that there are, that operate upon our spiritual body. So you could say part of the scope that we have about the laws will be spiritual in nature. In other words, they'll operate upon the material that makes up our spiritual body. Now, have many of you, are all of you aware that there is a spiritual body? Like you are made up of a physical body as well as a spiritual body? Most of you are aware of that? Because I'm very happy to digress on some of this discussion and fill in the gaps if you're not aware. So just yell out if you're not. So you could say that part of our nature is that we have a physical body. So there's my physical body, drawn very quickly, and there's my spiritual body. The two are joined together through a cord. It's called the silver cord. And also, many spirits are not aware of, but we are also one half of a soul. So this part is our soul, and that's our spirit body and our physical body. So the laws, all of the laws, operate upon the physical body. They also operate upon the spiritual body, and they also operate upon the soul. This being the half of ourselves. So you could view your physical body just as a robot that your soul uses in the physical world to express itself and experience the world. Does that make sense? And you could use the spirit body, if you could view it this way, as a more finer construction of material that has a different set of laws that determine its construction. It has a genetic structure still, and this spirit body can only exist it exists in all forms in the universe, but it only can be seen by other people who are in the same body, if you like, most of the time. Although many of you at times have seen a person in a spirit body, or potentially. The reality is that we can eventually see a spirit person, but you could still view that as a robot used by the soul to express itself in the spirit world. Does that make sense? Right? So what I'm saying is that this is the real you, and these two things are just the robots that the real you, or the mechanisms, the physical structures that the real you uses to express itself. Yeah? Does that make sense to everyone? It's very important that you understand that, because we want to understand that the scope of the laws operate upon the three parts of our nature, not just on the physical level. And in fact, what you will find is that there are far more laws that God has made that actually operate upon the highest part of our nature, our soul, than there are that operate upon any other thing in the universe. So there are far more laws that operate upon the soul. And if we define the soul as the real you, that's your personality, if you like. That's the person of yourself, the personality. It's the emotions that you have, the desires that you have, the passions that you have, all of the feelings that you have, and so forth. That's the real you. And you know, sometimes what goes on in your mind is not really the real you, actually, because your mind can be influenced by other people quite readily, if you think about it. Somebody can drop a thought into your mind, but it's very, very hard to drop a feeling into your soul without you being open and aware of that occurring. Okay. Is there any questions so far? Yeah, if we wait for the microphone. Can you wait for the microphone there? Thank you.
I just can feel that I'm reacting on about personality and real you. For me, personality is something that is created by our lives and our mind very much. Personality is, for me, not the essence of the real me.
Well, actually, I would say your personality is made up of two things. Firstly, it's part of what God created as a part of your being, but then also it's about your experiences. So it's a mixture of your experiences along with what God originally created or intended. So every single person that God's ever created was created differently to every other individual, and that's a part of what I view as their real personality. Often what a person portrays to the world is not their real personality, but rather a figment of their mind during their life's experience, which is not the same thing as their real personality. Does that make sense? Mario, with that slider I noticed, just as a side point, whenever you put your finger on it, and slide it, if we set that level of that mic just once and leave it, you'll find that there's something wrong with that slider. I just noticed that just as I was setting up. Yeah. Can you just speak into the mic again for me? You can say anything you like.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
That's better.
Now I'm with you with the personality. There is a difference. There are like two personalities. One that is created by this life, and then the real personality that you came here with your soul.
That you can also connect to and develop. But many people don't, because what they do is that personality is often suppressed by their parents in favour of what their parents want the child to be, and as a result the child goes up with seemingly a completely different nature than what God created the child to actually have. So when I'm talking about personality here, I'm talking about the real part, the one that God created, not the part through the experience that was created. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's very important for me to make a clear difference there.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Good. Okay, so if we call the soul the real you, right, then what I'm saying is that the laws operate upon the physical part of you, which I don't believe is the real you, because at some point in the future that part will probably die and will be decomposed into the elements that compose this physical universe. And after all of that occurs, in the end, you'll still be you. So that's not the real you. And in fact, there is the potential that the spirit body as well may die. Nobody really knows that, but there is that potential that the spirit body will die. And but my feelings are the soul itself was created to live eternally, right? And in fact, to expand eternally. But the laws operate upon each one. So if we're going to examine the law of attraction, we've got to expect that the law of attraction is going to operate upon these different levels of ourselves at different times. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. So any questions before I proceed? Yeah.